The void of space swallowed all sound. But General Zarvik could almost hear the beating of his own heart in the oppressive silence of the War Council chamber. His 4 violet eyes, arranged in a perfect diamond pattern across his scaled face, remained fixed on the holographic display of Earth. The blue-green world rotated slowly before him, surrounded by the gleaming markers that represented the Dominion's 7th Fleet, an armada of warships poised like predators before the strike. "The humans have had ample time to consider our terms," Zarvik announced, his voice carrying the metallic resonance common to all Vex. His scales shifted subtly, from deep purple to a confident azure, a biological display of conviction invisible to human eyes. "They have refused to yield. The time for conquest has come." Around the obsidian table, 12 high-ranking officers of the Dominion nodded in unison. All except one. Science Officer Truhl kept his gaze lowered, 4-fingered hands clasped before him. Unlike his military colleagues, Truhl's ceremonial armor was stripped of battle honors, replaced instead with the silver insignia of the Knowledge Corps. While the others saw only an inferior species to be subjugated, Truhl saw questions yet unanswered. "High Commander Vex has approved the Honorable Conflict Protocol," continued Zarvik, touching a control that expanded the holographic display to show Luna, Earth's moon, where humans had established their primary defensive position. "As dictated by the Supreme Doctrine, we have gifted the humans with weapons of our previous generation, obsolete by our standards, but sufficient to prevent the disgrace of unopposed victory." Commander Peltak, Zarvik's most trusted lieutenant, leaned forward. "The particle cannons we provided them are 3 generations behind our current armaments. Their primitive shield technology cannot hope to withstand even a fraction of our firepower." "The calculations are absolute," stated another officer, scales pulsing with smug confidence. "Total submission within 7 solar rotations." Truhl finally raised his eyes. "Have we analyzed their adaptation patterns thoroughly? Human historical records suggest—" "Your concerns were noted and dismissed during preliminary assessment, Science Officer," Zarvik interrupted, scales briefly flashing crimson with irritation. "The technological gap is insurmountable. Even with our outdated weapons, they lack the scientific foundation to utilize them effectively." Truhl bowed his head in deference, but doubt lingered in his mind. The Dominion had conquered 17 star systems through superior technology and unwavering discipline. But something about the humans' desperate defense strategies had caught his attention during initial reconnaissance. Their solutions were unpredictable, elegant despite their crude implementation. The sterile environment of the Dominion flagship, Invictus, contrasted sharply with the images on display of Luna Base Alpha, where Dominion architecture favored precision and uniformity. The human base was a hodgepodge of interconnected domes, repurposed spacecraft, and hastily constructed bunkers. Yet, despite its chaotic appearance, Truhl recognized an underlying ingenuity in their design that troubled him. "The attack commences in 3 standard cycles," Zarvik declared, rising to his full height of nearly 8 feet. "The 7th Fleet will—" A shrill alarm cut through his words. The holographic display flickered, markers representing Dominion vessels blinking out, one after another. "Status report," Zarvik demanded, his scales shifting to alarmed yellow. A communications officer's fingers flew across her console. "Signals terminated from multiple vessels in the 7th Fleet. No distress codes transmitted. Simply gone." "Impossible," whispered Peltak. A message flashed across the primary screen. "Attacker unknown. Conventional weapons detected. Shields ineffective." Silence engulfed the chamber until a lieutenant's voice broke through. "We're receiving a distress report from the Indomitable. They report chemical rockets passing through their shields as if they weren't there." "Chemical rockets?" Zarvik's scales pulsed in disbelief. "Primitive projectile weapons?" Truhl stepped forward. "Permission to analyze the attack patterns, General." Zarvik glared at him, scales now a deep crimson. "Granted. Find me answers, not theories. As the War Council erupted into chaos around him, Truel felt a cold certainty settle in his core. The assumed ease of this conquest had just evaporated like morning dew under twin suns. The holographic display continued to blink as more ships vanished from tactical awareness. The invasion of Earth had barely begun, and already the Dominion was on the defensive. In the sterile confines of his laboratory, aboard the Invictus, Truel hunched over complex data streams flowing across multiple displays. The remnants of the Seventh Fleet had withdrawn to a defensive position behind Mars, leaving behind only debris and questions. His four eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of intense concentration among his people. Isolate energy signatures from the attack, he instructed his assistant, a younger Vex named Merle. Focus on shield penetration points. Merle manipulated the controls with practiced efficiency. Strange. The human weapons show modified energy signatures. They appear to be rotating the particle fields. Truel leaned closer. Elaborate. The weapons we provided generate a standard particle stream with fixed harmonic resonance. These readings indicate they've somehow modified the emissions to create rotating fields that phase shift at irregular intervals. A cold feeling settled in Truel's stomach. They're using frequency analysis to find resonance points in our shields. But that's impossible, Merle protested, scales flickering with confusion. The mathematical complexity would require computational power beyond their— Perhaps they're not using computers as we understand them, Truel interrupted, mind racing. Search historical archives for human warfare adaptations, particularly instances of technological repurposing. As Merle complied, the laboratory door slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Peltak entered, his tall frame rigid with tension, scales a dangerous deep red. General Zarvik demands progress, Peltak announced without preamble. 3 dreadnoughts lost, 12 cruisers disabled. The High Council is in uproar. Truel gestured to his findings. The humans have modified our weapons in ways we didn't anticipate. They're creating synchronized resonance attacks that exploit vulnerabilities in our shield harmonics. That technology is beyond them, Peltak dismissed. Their approach isn't purely technological, Truel countered. They appear to be using biological pattern recognition, human intuition, combined with simple trial and error. They're treating our shields like musical instruments, finding the notes that cause dissonance. Peltak's scales shifted to a skeptical purple. You sound impressed, science officer. Remember where your loyalties lie. My loyalty is to truth, Commander. And the truth is that we severely underestimated human adaptability. A notification chimed on the main console. Incoming transmission from Luna Base Alpha, announced the ship's AI. Human command requests audience. Peltak and Truel exchanged glances before moving to the communication array. The screen flickered to life, revealing a human female in a simple gray uniform, her dark skin contrasting with short silver hair. Despite representing a species on the brink of defeat, her posture conveyed nothing but calm authority. This is Admiral Reeves of Earth United Defense, she stated, voice steady. I address the Dominion Command. This is Commander Peltak of the Dominion flagship Invictus. State your purpose. Reeves' expression remained impassive. We've demonstrated our response to your initial aggression. We now offer you one opportunity to withdraw your forces from our solar system. Peltak's scales flashed indignantly. You are in no position to make demands. Your primitive modifications will be countered. Perhaps, Reeves acknowledged with a slight nod. But be aware that what you've witnessed is merely stage 1 of our defense protocol. Should you force us to stage 2, the consequences will be considerably more severe. Truel studied the human closely, noting the subtle confidence in her eyes. Not bravado, he realized, but the calm certainty of someone holding superior position. Your threats are noted, human, Peltak replied coldly. Expect our response accordingly. As the transmission ended, Peltak turned to Truel. Find me a counter to their modifications, immediately. Alone again with his data, Truhl returned to his analysis with renewed urgency. The displays showed incomprehensible patterns in the human attack strategies, a strange mixture of mathematical precision and chaotic variability that defied conventional tactical algorithms. Merle, what did you find in the historical archives? His assistant looked up from his console. Numerous instances of technological repurposing throughout human warfare. Most notably, primitive aircraft converted to carriers, encrypted languages used as unbreakable codes, household chemicals transformed into explosives. Truhl nodded slowly. They don't advance linearly as we do. They leap sideways. As he spoke, a new alert flashed across his screen. Another Dominion vessel had gone silent. This one a scout ship near Jupiter's moons. The humans were expanding their defensive perimeter, turning the entire solar system into a battleground. In his quarters, General Zarvik paced like a caged predator, scales shifting between rage red and frustration black. The holoprojector before him displayed the tactical situation, a situation that had deteriorated from certain victory to humiliating stalemate in less than a day. "I want that human admiral captured," he snarled to his executive officer. "I will personally oversee her interrogation." "The lunar base defenses have proven problematic, sir," the officer replied cautiously. "Then deploy the Sixth Fleet. Overwhelm them with numbers. High Commander Vex has ordered all fleets to maintain defensive positions until we understand the human countermeasures." Zarvik stopped pacing, his four eyes narrowing to slits. "The High Commander fears primitive beings with borrowed technology. The doctrine demands decisive action. The doctrine also cautions against squandering resources." "General," came a new voice. Zarvik turned to find Truhl standing in the doorway, a data tablet in his hands. "You were not summoned, science officer," Zarvik said coldly. "I have findings that cannot wait," Truhl replied, entering despite the implied dismissal. "The humans are not merely using our weapons. They're fundamentally reimagining them." He activated his tablet, projecting a complex diagram into the air between them. "They've created what they call adaptive response systems. Their modifications aren't static. They evolve based on our countermeasures." Zarvik stared at the projection, scales darkening. "How is this possible? Their science is centuries behind ours." "Their science, yes. Their creativity, no." Truhl manipulated the display to show historical footage of human conflicts. Throughout their history, humans have excelled at asymmetric warfare. When technologically outmatched, they don't attempt to close the gap. They change the nature of the battlefield itself. The general's scales shifted to a contemplative blue. "You suggest we cannot win?" "I suggest victory may require redefining our understanding of the conflict," Truhl answered carefully, "and recognizing that our doctrine may contain flaws when applied to this species." Zarvik's scales flashed dangerously. "The doctrine is absolute, science officer. Your duty is to find weaknesses in the enemy, not question our sacred principles." "Even when those principles lead us to disaster?" Truhl challenged, surprising himself with his boldness. For a moment, he thought Zarvik might strike him down where he stood. Instead, the general turned away, gazing at the tactical display where Luna Base Alpha glowed defiantly. "Bring me solutions, Truhl, not philosophy." Left alone with his troubling insights, Truhl returned to his laboratory, his mind wrestling with competing loyalties. The Dominion had raised him, educated him, given his life purpose through scientific service. Yet the evidence before him suggested a fundamental error in their approach, an error that could cost countless lives on both sides, if not addressed. He found Merle still working, analyzing debris patterns from destroyed Dominion vessels. "Any patterns?" Truhl asked. "Yes," Merle replied, voice hushed with disbelief. "They're targeting propulsion and communication systems almost exclusively. Minimal casualties reported among recovered crew." Truel frowned. They're disabling, not destroying. Efficient, but unusual. Our doctrine dictates complete neutralization of enemy assets. Perhaps their doctrine differs, Truel mused. Or perhaps they're sending a message. Before Merle could respond, an emergency alert sounded throughout the ship. The High Commander himself was arriving, summoning all senior staff to the Grand Council chamber. The situation had escalated beyond a mere tactical setback. Truel hurried through the gleaming corridors of the Invictus, his mind racing with implications. If he was right about human adaptability, the Dominion faced a choice: adapt themselves or face unprecedented defeat. The Grand Council chamber hummed with tension as High Commander Vex took his position at the head of the obsidian table, standing nearly 9 feet tall, with scales that shifted through deep indigo hues denoting his royal lineage. Vex commanded the room through presence alone. His 6 eyes, the mark of the highest Dominion bloodlines, surveyed the assembled officers with ancient wisdom and newly awakened concern. "The Sovereign demands answers," Vex announced, his resonant voice silencing all murmurs. "How have primitive beings armed with our discarded technology managed to halt the might of the Dominion?" No one spoke. General Zarvik, standing rigidly at attention, kept his scales carefully neutral, a political skill Truel had never mastered. "Science Officer Truel," Vex continued, fixing his gaze on the researcher. "Your analysis has been forwarded to my attention. Elaborate for the Council." Truel stepped forward, acutely aware of Zarvik's subtle shift to warning orange. "High Commander, the humans have demonstrated an extraordinary capacity for adaptive thinking. Rather than use our weapons as designed, they've fundamentally reimagined their application." He activated the chamber's central display, showing the modified particle emissions. "They've created variable frequency attacks that exploit resonance points in our shield matrices. More concerning, they appear to be learning from each engagement, refining their approach in real time." "Impossible," interjected Councillor Drav, representative of the Dominion's most conservative military faction. "No species can outthink the doctrine. Our strategies have been perfected over millennia." "With respect, Councillor," Truel countered, "the doctrine was developed against species that think as we do. Humans appear to follow different cognitive patterns." Vex's scales shifted to a thoughtful azure. "You have historical evidence?" "Yes, High Commander." Truel brought up a series of Earth historical records. During their Second World War, humans used a primitive communication code based on their Navajo language. Their enemies could never decode it because it wasn't based on mathematical principles, but on cultural knowledge they couldn't access. He flipped to another example. Similarly, when lacking purpose-built aircraft carriers, they simply converted merchant vessels. When standard explosives were unavailable, they weaponized industrial chemicals. "Improvisation is not innovation," Zarvik objected. "For humans, they appear to be the same." Truel replied, "They don't solve problems linearly. They approach them laterally, making intuitive leaps that our logical processes don't anticipate." A troubled silence fell over the council. Finally, Commander Peltak spoke. "What do you propose, Science Officer? Surrender to these improvisers?" "Parley," Truel said simply. "They've shown restraint in their attacks, prioritizing disabling over destruction. I believe they're open to diplomatic resolution." "Parley!" Zarvik's scales flashed crimson. "The Dominion does not negotiate with inferiors." Vex raised a hand for silence. "The Dominion does what is necessary to secure its interests. General, if these humans possess capabilities, we have misjudged. Wisdom dictates reassessment." "High Commander," Councillor Drav protested, "the political ramifications would be catastrophic. 17 conquered systems watch us now. Any sign of weakness would be preferable to the destruction of our fleet." Vex finished firmly. "I have made my decision. We will accept the humans' invitation to parley. Commander Peltak will prepare a diplomatic vessel. As the council erupted into heated debate, Truel caught the High Commander's six-eyed gaze. A subtle shift of scale color conveyed an unspoken message. Prepare me thoroughly, science officer. These humans must not surprise me, as they have surprised our forces. Truel nodded imperceptibly. The fate of two species now rested on understanding what made humans different and dangerous. The shuttle's descent to Luna Base Alpha was smooth, despite the tension within its passenger compartment. High Commander Vex sat in contemplative silence, his royal guards positioned at respectful distance. Truel occupied a seat near the viewport, watching as the stark lunar landscape grew larger beneath them. "They are permitting our approach without challenge," noted Commander Peltak from the pilot station. "Either confidence or foolishness." "Or a gesture of good faith," Truel suggested. Their communication protocols emphasized peaceful intentions. Vex's scales rippled with subtle amusement. "Peace through superior positioning is still peace. Science officer, make no mistake, they have gained tactical advantage and now seek to consolidate it diplomatically." The shuttle passed over the sprawling complex of Luna Base Alpha, giving Truel his first unfiltered view of human construction. Unlike the precise, mathematically optimized architecture of Dominion structures, the lunar base resembled an organism that had grown according to need rather than plan. Dome-like habitats connected via tunnels to repurposed landing craft. Solar arrays spread in asymmetric patterns that nonetheless suggested efficiency. Resource processing facilities nestled between natural formations, utilizing the landscape rather than reshaping it. "Chaotic," muttered one of the royal guards. "Adaptive," Truel corrected quietly. The shuttle settled onto a designated landing pad, its engines powering down as atmospheric seals engaged. Through the viewport, Truel observed a human welcoming party assembling, a small group in formal attire, standing with disciplined posture. "Remember," Vex addressed his entourage, "we represent the Dominion's dignity. Whatever these humans may have achieved militarily, they remain a young species barely beyond their planetary cradle." The shuttle's ramp extended, and the Dominion delegation disembarked with ceremonial precision. Truel noticed how the humans maintained composed expressions, despite facing nearly 8-foot-tall scaled beings with multiple eyes and imposing ceremonial armor. A human female stepped forward, Admiral Reeves, recognizable from earlier communications. She performed a formal bow. "High Commander Vex, on behalf of Earth United Defense, I welcome you to Luna Base Alpha. I am Admiral Reeves, Commanding Officer of Humanity's Defensive Forces." Vex inclined his head slightly, a significant gesture from one of his station. "The Dominion acknowledges your greeting, Admiral. We come to discuss terms that may prevent further misunderstandings between our peoples." Reeves' expression remained neutral, but Truel detected a subtle shift in her posture. Confidence, not deference. "Of course, if you'll follow me. We've prepared appropriate accommodations for these discussions." As they were led through the base corridors, Truel observed everything with scientific curiosity. Unlike the sterile, uniform environments of Dominion vessels, human spaces showed endless variation. Personal items adorned workstations. Color schemes changed between sections. Even gravity levels varied slightly, optimized for different functions rather than standardized for conformity. They entered a large chamber that clearly served as the humans' council room. A circular table dominated the center, surrounded by chairs of varying designs. View screens displayed tactical information that disappeared as they entered. A security measure Truel found both primitive and prudent. What caught everyone's attention, however, was the figure already seated at the table. General Zarvik. The general's scales were fixed in the pale gray of controlled rage, his posture rigid with suppressed emotion. Small, restraining devices circled his wrists. Not painful, but clearly effective. "As you can see," Admiral Reeves stated calmly, "General Zarvik attempted a unilateral approach to our discussions. His shuttle was intercepted 14 hours ago, during an unauthorized incursion into lunar space. Vex's 6 eyes narrowed, but his voice remained steady. The General's actions were not sanctioned by Dominion Command. So we assumed, Reeves nodded. He has been treated according to interstellar prisoner protocols, those we could extrapolate from the limited information in your provided databases. Truhl noted the implications immediately. The humans had not only received weapons, but had efficiently deciphered the accompanying technical data to extract cultural and procedural information. Their learning curve was steeper than anyone had calculated. The General will be returned to your custody as a gesture of good faith, Reeves continued, motioning to guards who deactivated Zarvik's restraints. We have no desire for prisoners, only peaceful resolution. Zarvik rose slowly, his scales shifting through shades of humiliation and fury. He moved to Vex's side without a word, but his 4 eyes burned with unspoken threats directed at the humans. A commendable gesture, Vex acknowledged, though Truhl knew the High Commander well enough to detect the subtle harmonics of surprise in his voice. Perhaps now we may discuss the terms of disengagement. Admiral Reeves smiled slightly. Actually, High Commander, we have prepared a demonstration first. With your permission. Vex hesitated, then nodded once. Proceed. Reeves touched a control on the table. Dr. Patel, we're ready. A side door opened, admitting a human male with dark skin and a trim beard sprinkled with gray. He wore a simple white laboratory coat over practical clothing, the universal uniform of scientists. Truhl noted with unexpected kinship. Greetings, the man said. His voice, carrying the subtle tonal variations Truhl had learned to identify as the Indian regional dialect of human speech. I am Dr. Patel, Chief of Weapons Research. I've been studying your fascinating technology. He activated a holographic display in the center of the table, showing a 3-dimensional schematic of a standard Dominion dreadnought. This is your vessel, Implacable, Dr. Patel explained. Currently holding position in high Mars orbit. With your permission, I will now demonstrate why further conflict would be inadvisable. Vex's scales darkened with concern. You intend to attack during peace negotiations? Not attack, Patel corrected politely. Demonstrate. No crew will be harmed. After a tense moment, Vex nodded. Proceed with your demonstration. Patel touched another control. The holographic display shifted to real-time footage from space, showing the massive Dominion dreadnought floating serenely against the backdrop of stars. Initiating Demonstration Alpha, announced a disembodied voice. On screen, a tiny object, barely visible as a speck, approached the dreadnought. The vessel's defensive systems activated immediately, energy shields flaring to life in iridescent layers around the ship. The speck made contact with the outermost shield layer. What happened next silenced the entire chamber. The dreadnought's shields didn't merely fail. They collapsed in a cascading wave of energy, like dominoes falling in sequence. Each layer destabilized the next in a perfectly choreographed sequence. Within seconds, the mighty vessel floated unprotected, its defensive systems completely neutralized. What you just witnessed, Dr. Patel explained into the stunned silence, is a modified probe carrying a harmonic resonator we developed, using principles extracted from your particle weapons. It identifies the precise frequency of each shield layer and generates a destabilizing counterfrequency. Truhl found himself leaning forward in fascination despite the strategic implications. You've created a cascading resonance effect. Precisely, science officer. Patel nodded appreciatively. The mathematics are quite elegant, though I suspect our approach differs from what your engineers might have pursued. High Commander Vex's scales had shifted to the deep blue of serious contemplation. You could have destroyed the vessel completely. We could have, Admiral Reeves confirmed. But that's not our objective. We seek security, not conquest. Security through superior firepower, Commander Peltak observed dryly. Indeed. Reeves acknowledged without pretense. Though I should mention that this was merely demonstration alpha. Dr. Patel adjusted the display, splitting it to show theoretical models alongside the disabled dreadnought. Our secondary discovery is perhaps more significant. We've found that with relatively minor modifications, we can amplify the particle streams from your weapons to create a feedback loop within your shield generators. The simulation played out, showing energy fields not collapsing, but inverting, turning inward against the vessels they were designed to protect. In essence, Patel continued, we can turn your defensive systems into weapons against your own ships. The resulting energy discharge would be catastrophic. The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. The Dominion's technological supremacy, the foundation of their interstellar empire, had been comprehensively shattered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Vex rose to his full height, his 6 eyes fixed on Admiral Reeves. I must consult with the Sovereign. Of course, Reeves agreed. We'll provide a secure communication chamber. But understand, High Commander, our terms will include complete withdrawal from our solar system and binding non-aggression protocols. As the Dominion delegation was escorted to the communication room, Truhl found himself walking alongside Dr. Patel, drawn by scientific curiosity that transcended political tensions. Your approach to resonance harmonics is unorthodox, Truhl observed. No Dominion scientist would have pursued that angle. Patel smiled. That's precisely why it worked. Science officer, we didn't try to outthink you on your terms. We looked at what you gave us and asked different questions entirely. Such as? Such as, what happens if we play these energy fields like musical instruments, instead of treating them as mathematical constants? Or what if shields aren't absolute barriers but permeable membranes with exploitable properties? Truhl's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. Metaphorical thinking applied to physics. Exactly, Patel nodded. Your science is impressive but rigid. You build perfect solutions to known problems. We build adaptable solutions to evolving ones. That insight stayed with Truhl as he joined Vex in the secure communication chamber. The High Commander stood before a quantum-encrypted channel. His scales, now the formal imperial purple required for addressing the Sovereign. The holographic figure that materialized bore the unmistakable traits of Dominion royalty. 8 eyes arranged in perfect symmetry, scales that shifted through colors beyond normal perception, and an ancient wisdom that radiated like physical force. High Commander, the Sovereign acknowledged. Your report is troubling. The situation is unprecedented. Your Eminence, Vex replied, bowing deeply. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that challenge fundamental doctrine assumptions. Explain. Vex detailed the demonstrations, the shield manipulation, the tactical innovations that had neutralized superior Dominion technology. Throughout, the Sovereign remained silent, scales shifting subtly through colors that reflected calculation rather than emotion. And what do you recommend, High Commander? The Sovereign finally asked. Vex hesitated, then spoke with careful precision. A strategic withdrawal. Your Eminence. Not as defeat, but as reassessment. These humans possess innovative capacity that could benefit the Dominion if properly harnessed through alliance, rather than subjugation. The Sovereign's scales rippled with the royal purple of decision. The Dominion has never retreated. With respect, Your Eminence, the Dominion has never faced this specific challenge. Our doctrine presumes technological superiority. Without it, we risk substantial losses for minimal gain. A long silence followed, during which Truhl held his breath. Finally, the Sovereign's scales settled into a resigned blue-green. You are authorized to negotiate withdrawal terms. High Commander, frame it as recognition of the humans' defensive capabilities and our choice to pursue diplomatic relations. The Dominion does not surrender. It chooses its engagements. As you command, Sovereign, Vex bowed again as the communication ended. When they returned to the council chamber, Admiral Reeves waited patiently alongside her senior staff. The contrast between species had never been more apparent to Truhl. The humans, so physically fragile compared to Vex warriors, yet possessing minds that had accomplished the seemingly impossible. The Dominion, Vex announced formally, recognizes the effective defensive capabilities demonstrated by humanity. We propose immediate cessation of hostilities and establishment of diplomatic relations between our peoples. Reeves nodded. Acceptable in principle. Our terms include complete withdrawal of all Dominion forces from the Sol system within 72 hours, exchange of scientific delegations, and recognition of Earth's sovereign territory extending to the Kuiper Belt. We require language acknowledging that withdrawal is by Dominion choice, not compulsion, Vex countered. Agreed, provided the practical outcome remains the same. The negotiations proceeded with surprising efficiency, each side recognizing the value of resolution. Truhl observed the humans closely, noting how they operated as a collective, yet maintained individual perspectives, a paradoxical blend of unity and diversity that seemed to fuel their creative approach to problems. Within hours, preliminary agreements were drafted, to be finalized by diplomatic teams over the coming days. As the Dominion delegation prepared to depart, Admiral Reeves approached Truhl directly. "Science officer, Dr. Patel speaks highly of your scientific curiosity. We would welcome your participation in the knowledge exchange program." Truhl glanced at Vex, who inclined his head in subtle permission. "I would be honored, Admiral. There is much our peoples could learn from one another." As their shuttle ascended from Luna, Truhl watched the improvised human base recede below them, a physical manifestation of humanity's approach to challenges. Not perfect, not elegant by Dominion standards, but brilliantly functional and endlessly adaptable. "They will be formidable allies," Vex observed quietly, "or devastating enemies." "I believe they prefer the former, High Commander," Truhl replied. "As do I, Science Officer, as do I." 6 lunar cycles later, Truhl stood in the observation dome of the Dominion diplomatic station orbiting Vex Prime, watching the arrival of the first official human embassy vessel. The sleek craft, clearly incorporating elements of Dominion design while maintaining distinctly human aesthetics, docked with practiced precision. "Nervous, Science Officer?" asked Merle, who had joined Truhl's diplomatic science team following their return from Earth. "Curious," Truhl corrected, scales shifting to excited green. "The humans have been studying our technical database for less than half a cycle. I'm eager to see what they've gleaned from it." The airlock cycled, and a delegation of 12 humans entered the station. Dr. Patel led the group, now bearing the title of Earth's Chief Scientific Liaison. Behind him came specialists in various disciplines, their expressions a mixture of awe and analytical observation as they took in the Dominion architecture. "Welcome to Vex Prime Station," Truhl greeted them formally. "The Sovereign extends hospitality to Earth's representatives." "We are honored by the invitation," Patel replied with a slight bow, "and fascinated by what we've seen already. Your gravitational manipulation technology is particularly elegant." The human delegation was escorted to their assigned quarters, specially modified to accommodate their physiological needs and cultural preferences. Truhl noted with amusement how the humans immediately began examining everything, their natural curiosity apparently insatiable. "They touch everything," Merle observed with mild concern. "Is this normal behavior?" "For humans, yes," Truhl explained. "Their learning process incorporates physical interaction. They understand through manipulation as much as observation." This became evident over the following days as minor incidents occurred throughout the station. A human physicist accidentally recalibrated a quantum field generator by just seeing how it worked. 2 engineers dismantled and reassembled a food synthesizer, improving its efficiency by 12% in the process. A linguist inadvertently accessed restricted communication protocols while exploring translation matrices, Each incident simultaneously impressed and alarmed Dominion security personnel. These humans didn't merely study technology, they reinvented it as they went, seeing possibilities where Dominion engineers saw only established functions. In his private laboratory, Truel hosted Dr. Patel for what had become regular discussions of comparative scientific philosophy. Today, they examined a holographic representation of Dominion interstellar expansion over 5 millennia. "Your empire grew so systematically," Patel observed, "each conquest building logically on the last." "The doctrine dictates methodical expansion," Truel explained. "Resources acquired from one system fund technological development that enables conquest of the next. It was, perfectly efficient. Until you encountered a species that didn't play by the established rules," Patel noted without arrogance. Indeed. Truel manipulated the display to show theoretical models of future expansion. "The Sovereign has commissioned new protocols incorporating what we've learned from humanity. 2 paths now exist where once there was only conquest. Innovation alongside acquisition," Patel nodded approvingly. "A more sustainable approach, though not without challenges. Our society values stability and predictability. Humanity embraces chaos and uncertainty." Patel smiled. "Not chaos, my friend. Possibility. We see fluctuation as opportunity, not disorder." The station's alert system chimed softly, indicating the arrival of another human vessel, this one carrying diplomatic personnel to formalize the alliance treaty. As they moved to the observation deck, Truel found himself reflecting on the extraordinary changes wrought by a single miscalculation. The Dominion had gifted humans with outdated weapons, expecting gratitude followed by inevitable defeat. Instead, they had awakened an unpredictable force in the galaxy, a species that saw limitations as suggestions and impossibilities as challenges yet to be overcome. "What do you think will happen when humanity encounters other civilizations?" Truel asked, as they watched the approaching ship. "We'll adapt to them, as we've adapted to you," Patel replied simply. "It's what we do." "And if they don't adapt to you?" Patel's expression grew thoughtful. "Then history suggests they'll find themselves in the position the Dominion just narrowly avoided." As the human vessel docked with characteristic efficiency, Truel felt his scales shift to a hopeful blue-green. The galaxy had changed irrevocably, awakened to an era no longer defined by who possessed the most advanced technology, but by who could most creatively apply the technology they had. It would be an era defined by human adaptability. And against all doctrine expectations, Truel found himself looking forward to it with scientific curiosity and genuine optimism. The Dominion would adapt, too. They had no choice. After all, they had given humans outdated weapons, and now they feared their tactics.